Okay, take a second to check your answer on the problem I left you with in the last video, and then we're going to move on. So next we're going to talk about perfect square trinomials. Now this is actually just a very specialized version of factoring trinomials with a not equal to 1. So honestly, we're not going to spend a lot of time dealing with this one only because you can always factor the trinomial with the grouping method. But if you can recognize a perfect square trinomial pretty quickly, it does make things a little bit easier. So the things you're looking for a perfect square trinomial are the first term is a perfect square. The last term is a perfect square. And the middle term, we're going to say is 2 times first and last. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that with an example or two. I think you can still see that. Yes. Okay, so here are some examples. Again, the directions will be factor. We'll have x squared plus 6x plus 9. Now this one would actually be pretty easy to do in another way, but I'm going to do it this way. So I'm going to first try to recognize, is the first term a perfect square? Yes, it is x squared. Is the last term a perfect square? Yes, it is 9, or it's not 9, sorry. It is 3 squared. I got a text from my sister just now and I got distracted. And then what I'm looking for when I mean the middle term is 2 times the first and the last is that these two numbers I've written in the parentheses here and this variable is the middle term 2 times x times 3, and it is. And as long as that is the case, then this is what we call a perfect square trinomial, meaning that it can be factored this way, and the things that are going to go in there are going to be, in this case, x and 3. This is a plus sign, so that's plus. And it's pretty much that quick. Let's look at another one, and then we're going to move on from perfect square trinomials. Again, because they can be solved other ways or factored other ways, it's just nice to recognize them if we can. Okay, so again, we're going to try to notice, is the first term a perfect square? It is. It is 5x squared. Is the last term a perfect square? It is. It is 6 squared. So then I want to think about 2 times 5x times 6. What that is, well, 2 times 5x is 10x. 10x times 6 is 60x. Since these match, then we do have a perfect square trinomial. Since it's a perfect square trinomial, it will factor this way, 5x and 6. Those are the two numbers in those parentheses. This is squared, and because this is a minus, we'll have a minus in there. Okay, so that's pretty much how that one goes. That's perfect square trinomial factoring. Okay, we have one more type of factoring we're going to talk about today. It is the sum and difference of cubes. Then we'll pretty much have all the methods done. We're not going to talk about that strategy just yet. Sum and difference of cubes. Sum or difference, I guess I should say, of cubes, which again is kind of interesting. Now, we had the difference of squares earlier. Now we've got the sum or the difference. So we're going to recognize the sum or difference of cubes if we've got two terms. Okay. We can have addition or subtraction. And lastly, we'll look for perfect cubes. And again, we'll say numbers that need to be perfect cubes. And then this is going to be variables with powers that are multiples of 3. Okay, that's what we mean by perfect cubes when we're talking about variables. So there are some, again, a couple patterns, sort of like the difference of squares, factoring, sort of like some of those special products we talked about in P4. So the way that we're going to factor a cubed plus b cubed is this, a plus b. Then in the second set of parentheses, a squared minus ab plus b squared. Then we have a cubed minus b cubed, because we can do both sums and differences here. Then this one's going to be a minus b, and then a squared plus ab, and plus b squared. So these will be important, and you will have to memorize these so that you can take quizzes and such over this section. So keep that in mind. This is why you need to practice, 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 because the more you practice them, the more it will just come to you, okay, when it's time. All right, so let's look at a couple of examples here. We're going to do, we have to say factor, sorry. Number 1, x cubed plus 1. So we're just going to do a very simple one to begin with. Okay. And again, it might be nice to think about what was cubed to make x cubed. Well, obviously it's x. What was cubed to make 1? It's a 1. Okay. So we're going to now follow this pattern, but instead of a and b, I have x and 1. Okay. So I have x cubed, and I have 1 cubed. So we're going to follow this with the a and b. So that's going to leave me with, then, not a plus b, but in our case, x plus 1. Then I'm going to have another set of parentheses that's a little bit larger because it has 3 terms. And I'm going to have a squared, or the first thing squared, so x squared, minus these two things multiplied by each other, just x times 1 or x, plus the square of the second one, 1 squared or 1. And that's how that gets factored. Okay. Next, let's try this one. 125x cubed minus 8. Okay. So we need to consider, again, what was cubed. If we're trying to think that, well, because we've got an x cubed here, we think we're looking at the sum or difference of cubes. What was cubed to make 125x cubed? That would be 5x. Okay, 5 cubed is 125, and then x cubed. What is cubed to make 8? That's 2. So now I'm going to be following this pattern, but again, instead of a and b, I'll be using 5x and 2. So instead of a minus b, we're going to have 5x minus 2. I didn't change the color of my marker. That'll be okay. Now, be careful here, because now I need a squared. I need this thing squared. And remember what happens when we square 5x. We don't get 5x squared. We get 25x squared. We have to square the 5 and square the x. Plus a times b. So these two things multiplied. 5x times 2 is 10x. Plus the second thing, or b squared, which in this case is 2. So 2 squared, which is 4. And that's our final answer. Okay. So that's how we deal with the sum or difference of cubes. Again, needing to have these patterns memorized. You can do that by practicing. I don't know how many times I can say that. It's so important for you to practice your factoring. Okay? All right, so I'm ready to give you your assignment for this one. So this is going to be, I think I'll write it over here, section P5. You'll be on page 65 and 66. And it will be numbers 2 through 64 even. Okay, that's the assignment that you'll be looking for next time. All right, so that's that. And next time we'll finish up P5, and that should be the last day of videos. I don't know, maybe I'll have a short video for the last day. We'll see. All right, see you guys. Have a great time factoring, and I'll see you next time.